Good evening, Newport Bermuda Race fans. I'm Dobbs Davis with the final report on our analysis of the 2012 Newport Bermuda Race. All the boats are in now, well, save for a couple. If we look at our tracker here, we've got, looks like Penguin is still out there doing 5 knots on their way to the finish, 99 miles out. And it looks like also that Valor is out. Peterson 37, they're doing a whopping 2.8 knots. So we wish them best of luck on their final approach. They must like it out there, but everybody else is enjoying the hospitality of Bermuda and having a great time, having finished this very fast race this year, and in most cases probably a day ahead of their expected times. So with that, I wanted to kind of take an overview of this year's race and just kind of examine a few points. Now, what made the race this year look like this and not look like this from the tracker of the race 2 years ago? As you can see, 2 years ago in the 2010 race, there was a lot of tacking and jibing and zigzagging down the racetrack and a much wider track down the favored rum line toward the finish. Well, what made it look like this, of course, was the weather. That was one very important factor, and so we'll just give an overview of that and how that looked. This was the forecast from our friends at Commander's Weather on the morning of the race, and as you can see, the normally persistent Bermuda Azores high was basically non-existent in the North Atlantic. It was pushed much further to the south, and the whole weather system was influenced by these low pressures that were on a track in this direction. So that northeast breeze was quite strong for everybody getting out of the off the start from Newport on Friday. And then when we go forward in time and looked at the forecast on Saturday, again a low pressure here over Bermuda or just south of the island was dominating the features in the southern part of the course, but this high to the north, the high pushed over here, that just kept the isobars really consistent, and northeast direction held sway through Saturday and then also into Sunday. Now, what was interesting on Sunday, of course, is this low that was projected to kind of stay in the area and possibly die out and influence the breeze on the final approach to the island on Sunday and Monday, as more or less predicted here. These forecasts were generated Thursday evening or very early Friday morning. So as you can see, the breeze for Sunday night and Monday was projected to be really bad here. But what happened, of course, as we know now, if we close this out, this low actually remained persistent and actually strengthened a bit and went off to the northeast. So that allowed the northeast breeze to hold, and in fact caused the breeze on Sunday and through Monday to back around to the north, northwest, and clock completely around as the system moved off this way. So that's the really the big picture in the weather and how that influenced the boats on the track to remain moving the entire time, except for those that are still out there now and maybe some that got in yesterday. But basically the bulk of the fleet was able to have breeze the entire race. Nobody really stopped, which was pretty unusual for most Bermuda races through history. Now we'll close these out and then look at the other factor, which is the current. Current had an influence this year because the rum line nearly strode or sat astride of this feature here, this current meander in the Gulf Stream. So most people's tracks tended to favor a little bit to the west of the rum line to pick up some positive current influence coming in here. Of course, they were able to ride that for quite a long way down here before it then marched off to the east. Further down the track, a little bit more positive current, and sometimes a little negative current if you got in a little bit further off to the west of the rum line, sorry, to the east of the rum line. But generally, it wasn't strong. There was a couple other smaller features in here that people reported, but nothing extraordinary. And again, with the wind pushing him through, this was really not a huge factor in this year's race, at least for negative terms. It was quite positive here. and therefore that kept everybody very close to this track. Now, one thing to remember is the very fast boats, of course, have the current as less of an influence because their boat speed is much higher. The current is therefore less proportionally an influence on their track. That's why we tended to see, as we did in our analysis yesterday, the fast boats stick very close to the run line and not worry too much about current. And then I would say then the other influence, or what all this resulted in, was the scoring. And the scoring this year was pretty tight for some classes. And in fact, amongst the top finishers, we see that in general, in most classes, the differences between, in corrected time, the differences between the top finishers in each class was on average about 20 minutes. But there's a couple of notable exceptions. When we look down here at Class 4 in the St. David's Lighthouse Division, we can see, of course, very close finishes here amongst Dogslag, Christopher Dragon, and Lappin. Those guys were very close indeed in those St. David's divisions. That was definitely the closest in corrected time. And then when we look down here at the Lighthouse divisions, they were much closer. In fact, if we look down in here, where are we? Gibbs Hill, there we are. 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 27 seconds. That's a pretty close margin. You can imagine the guys on Avra have spent the last couple of days wondering where that 3 minutes could have been made up somewhere to get Defiance and corrected time. Interestingly, though, they were 10 hours apart in elapsed time, whereas Ptarmigan in third place was very close, only 3 hours apart from Defiance in elapsed time. So it could be argued that those, obviously, with closer in elapsed time, saw nearly the same weather down the track, and that would help explain why we've had close corrected times. We see that, of course, in Gibbs Hill Lighthouse Division 10. This class was very close. All their corrected times quite close. Again, that's because they were all going very close to the same speed. They saw a lot of this very similar elapsed times, and therefore they had the same weather down the track. So that helps explain why we had such a close race this year. And the other thing I wanted to look at briefly was a little spreadsheet here on participation. The Bermuda Race historian John Rumenier has given me some information on the entry lists and a little bit about loyalty. If we look through the entries here, I've color-coded in column K the number of races that the skipper has done in the past. And just looking down that column, I've again color-coded that so that skippers that have done 5 to 9 races numbered 25 in this particular year's fleet. Those that have done 10 to 14 races, 6, and 15 to 20 races is one team, and I'll let you guess who that is. Yep, that's it, folks. Karina, Reeves Potts boat has the Reeves and has done. Let's see. I'm going to check out John's notes here. Let's see. Karina's 20 races, so that's certainly a record in the history of Bermuda races for number of races done, and several sailors have done over 20 on that boat. More than 50 CCA members have sailed on over 15 races. Now, this isn't like the MAC race. This race is not every year. This is every other year. So you got to double the number of years that that are involved here, and it's pretty astounding. He had one little anecdotal note from Larry Glenn, the skipper of the J44 Runaway. He says he's done 15 races with a total of 75 races in his crew. He said one constant for him. He wrapped a spinnaker in the light air running on Sunday. He said, "This hasn't happened to me in 56 years since we wrapped a chute in my first Bermuda race in 1956. So, plenty of stories out there, really good ones. Again, I invite you all to look at the Bermuda Race website and go harvest that for some great videos, some anecdotes, some great stories from Chris Musler. He's written a good one on the double-handed experience that he had. I personally want to thank everybody on the Bermuda Ocean Race Committee for allowing me the opportunity to inform and hopefully entertain you these last few days. I also want to thank the race historian, John Romanier, and the technical support from Rush Hamilton, who was just really, really good, awesome in getting the web updates and helping me out tremendously. And I finally want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in and joining us with this year's race. This race tracker has been phenomenal. The folks at Yellow Brick have done a great job. And I hope you all tune in 2 years' time, or like me, hope to get out on the water. So I'm going to wrap it up for the Newport Bermuda Race this year. And I'm Dobbs Davis, and we'll see you out on the water.